Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Real Black Podcast, and today we have the honor and privilege of being with two Philly-based filmmakers who've got a new movie out called White Dudes Can't Rap.
Now you step to me, call yourself an MC. Monty Hall and Bob Barker had more game than ye. Like Barbara Gordon and Bruce Wayne, you see. Things aren't always what they appear to be. Because the master of disaster gonna cover you with plaster mold you like Rodin while you're standing like a statue. Nobody in the joint could do it any faster. I'm gonna bust you up and put you in a cast, sir. The real deal
With us
has the light
today,
to see. He's got freaks joint juice,
good
steady
friends,
as me.
MC Breeze, who did the soundtrack, and the writer-director, Mr. Hurley McNare. Welcome, guys, to the Real Black Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, me too.
I'm cracking up. Hurley, I love you. Tell us about the movie.
Well, this was a heck of a project to undertake. I had the good fortune of running into a guy named John Canner Terrell. Many of you know him as Flash from the Five Heartbeats, or Greer Childs from She's Gotta Have It. And once we got to talking, I'd always wanted to do kind of a Leslie Nielsen Naked Gun style of movie. So we had the theme of a detective going into, in this case, an urban hip hop club. Well, then we knew we wanted to get some authenticity to it. And you might recall, Mike, I met you back in the day when I was kind of exploring hip hop as not so much a hip hop. I mean, I was growing up on punk rock and such. So when I started thinking about the hip hop theme, I started going to some of your events. And that's where I met you and bought the Philly Boy DVD back in the day. And so eventually when John and I got around to making the movie, we were looking for somebody to do the music. At one point he said to me, well, why not Breeze? And I kind of had one of those eureka moments like, yeah, why not Breeze? Why didn't I think of that? I knew about him, hadn't met him. And so at that point, we got in touch with Mr. MC Breeze and went on over there and started talking turkey. And, well, we had a pretty tight deadline to work on. And I threw about 10 songs at him and gave him a couple weeks to do it. And next thing you know, he was turning them out just like that. And his experience, I mean, he did the music for Rocky V. He knew a lot more about what I needed than I knew. And so that was a blessing right there. And he understood the process of what it takes. I mean, I had everybody wanting to sing their own music. You know, these are actors. I hired them to be actors. And, I got them talking me into, hey, let's go down and I'll take a shot at, doing the singing. Breeze is trying to get the music set for day one when we're shooting this huge club scene with 50 people, 100 people in there dancing around and all. And all they had to do was lip sync. And they wanted to do more than lip sync. They wanted to sing. And I was like, all right, I need you to be. Well, Breeze kind of just set me straight and set the whole thing straight and did a little seminar, what it takes to do music for a movie, which was comically both hysterical and educational, I would say. And he did a tremendous job, got the music ready for us for game day. And the whole thing came off beautifully. And we shot the club scene and all the other stuff. He nailed it.
Yeah, so this is Breeze. It's not your first foray into soundtrack for motion pictures.
No. As you know, I've done stuff for you, and then the Rocky V stuff being the biggest thing. And so I definitely knew something about the power of music. It's like the power of the audio is just so significant. So I had definitely some good experience.
Well, the closing song, Chew Toy. Where'd that go from?
I think the greatest thing about this project is that I've never been really conventional. I mean, even when I put my first record out, when R&B was supposed to be something that rappers didn't do, I put an R&B song on a rap record. And what I loved about this project is it didn't have like a set direction of like, yo, we're going to do a song. We're going to do a movie and it has this style of music. And it was an opportunity to do some new stuff. Hurley, he wrote the actual lyrics to the song. So that was a challenge because I had to convert. I really hadn't done a lot of stuff where somebody else's lyrics came in and I had to like accompany the music in this way. It was just like, you know, an odd type of way that he wanted it done. And I was like, this is perfect for me. It's perfect because it was a challenge, you know. So Chew Toy, I mean, the title itself says, yeah, let's go, let's do this.
Yeah, it's kind of that Hurley. That kind of carries the vibe of the whole movie. It's a very off the wall motion picture. You know, it's well, I mean, you know, we'll talk about that. I mean, you said Naked Gun was one of the inspirations.
So one of the things with the song Chew Toy, I remember when I first asked Breeze this, you know, I gave him a list of about 10 songs, and I'd give him like a sketchy note, like, well, give me something with an Ike and Tina Turner kind of feel to it. And that's how it went down. And then I had people on set who were trying to operate some sort of a coup to take over the music from Breeze, and I didn't quite peep what was going on. And we took them down to the studio one day and let them have their say. And next thing you know, he's got Chew Toy playing. They're all dancing. I'm like, these are the people complaining about the music, but they can't keep their feet still. So it was a pretty entertaining process watching people trying to get around, manipulate, and run their own little game on the whole thing. But yeah, so he did a wonderful job with Chew Toy and all the other stuff in the soundtrack. You were asking about the origins. I always wanted to do a Naked Gun thing. And as I said, I didn't really have experience with the hip hop rap community. I'd grown up on Spike Lee movies and listened to Public Enemy and so forth, but I was primarily a punk rocker. So I remember when people were questioning, well, how can you have that R&B or that kind of music in rock and roll? I was like, well, Dre 3000. I mean, he came out with, you know, shake your Polaroid picture. Isn't that allowed? What are the rules here? And so Breeze helped sort of set me straight. Like, no, there are no rules. This is this is your project, your creativity, and artists, musical artists. You know, rap's not so narrowly defined.
Yeah, well, Breeze's style is really interesting, and it's very timeless. You know, so I think that helps as opposed to defining one genre of rap and going down that path. You know, can you talk a little bit about like your timeless style and approach to making hip hop music, Breeze?
Well, when I started, I was just making music. When I was a kid, I probably was 5, 6 years old, and I used to get all the hand-me-down singles from my dad's record. He was a huge audiophile. And like, so I would get his hand-me-down record. So you're talking about a 5-year-old. I probably had the Drifters in a crate with Tina Turner, with like, there was Sam Cooke, like the Marvelettes was one of my favorite groups. And I had all this different diverse music that I grew up with. And like, for me, music, it really wasn't about just like trying to do what everyone was doing. It was trying to make something that moved me. And it's like when I heard Chew Toy, it's like, wow, like a lot of the other producers, they would have tried to take whatever was popular and make Chew Toy fit into that. And me, I try to fit music into the idea of Chew Toy. A lot of people understand there's certain musical things that are universal. Like if you can play all your hottest hip hop and then beat it, you know, and everybody may not dance. But if you play Beat It by Michael Jackson, I don't care. It's going to transcend that era, the era that was in. People are still going to move to it because there's certain beats and there's certain rhythms that will always work no matter what music you're listening to at that time. And, you know, and that's why radio is radio, because, you know, people one day want to go back to R&B. They want to go back to the blues or country. So for me, it's just music. It's like, yo, and I got so many freaking tones and sounds and music and eras in my head that if I hear something like, that reminds me of this, and I'll play, and that's where I'll start producing music from. Well, how should this song make me feel? You know, and a hip hop trap beat, that I want to be a Chew Toy. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. What, you know, and so for me, it's I never really created from what was supposed to be the norm or contemporary or right now, and I never really created from that. I just made songs because music is music, you know, and you know, and I think there's a common denominator with certain rhythms and tunes and beats that's in all of us. And I think I try to write from there, like what it makes me feel, opposed to what I think people will love, other people like.
And so, Hurley, I mean, is that your approach to writing comedy? Is to be esoteric and a little bit different?
I can merely say that the type of movies I enjoyed were the ones that inspired me, like work in my comfort zone. And so, as I said, Naked Gun, scary movie genre, I really enjoyed watching them. So when I set out to write something, I went down that same path and enjoyed the slapstick comedy of that design and tried to emulate it and pay tribute to it in some way that might be respectable. And in this case, our movie's set in 1999. So how do you, much of it takes place in a hip hop club. There's a band that's a hip hop band that's integral to the plot. So it's not simply a hip hop score behind the music, but the music is integral to the plot. And that being the case, we want authenticity to not only the, everything else we did, but the best way to get authenticity to music was get an authentic hip hop legend. So to be able to have encountered Breeze was a godsend. I mean, right. you can't get 1990s hip hop any better than from a 1990s hip hop legend.
Exactly. And and he also does animation in the film as well.
Well, it was I got a lot of bang for my buck on this project because we brought him in to do the music, and that was all we were expecting. Then of course we needed someone to play the Spunky Joe, the thug rap instructor, and he came in and knocked that out of the park. And then we had this. I realized, some of my shortcomings as a filmmaker. Late in the game, I realized, the opening credits were not amusing or entertaining. You don't realize you're about to watch a comedy. So late in the game, I reconceived the credits and created an animation. But Breeze was the guy who created the animation, and he brought in a contemporary artist. We used a mix of artists throughout the film. We had like Ines, old school rapper, for the main battle rap, but then this Brianna Castro is a talented young singer out of Philadelphia. And so it's kind of a Roger Rabbit thing where the actress is integrated with the animation, and Breeze did that too. So he's a multi-talented individual, and we benefit from all of it.
Yeah.
Ines, let me say something about Ines, man. Ines, the same thing. Like, he came in, of course, the rap that he did was also written by Hurley. And now we're talking about one of the baddest rappers to come out of Philadelphia. And he walks into the studio with he's about to do a rap that someone else wrote. And he was the most humblest cat. I mean, it was even one time where he walked out of the studio and asked us all that we want something to eat or drink from the store across the street. And I mean, so he could have been like super ego filled, and he wasn't. He was just like the coolest, calmest dude. And he went in that studio, man, and just like he became the rapper that Hurley wanted him to be. And easy to work with. And I mean, I'll never forget that. He came in, he was humble, and he just did what was on the page. He read it. He went in the studio and cranked it out. I was like, I was really surprised because I thought he would come in with a bit of an ego, or I didn't know what to expect.
Right. So who else is in the cast? I mean, we got John Lumia, of course.
John Lumia does a tremendous job in the lead. He just deadpans his way through the whole film, and he was one of those guys as an actor that just can't act out of character. There were occasionally things that I wrote, and I remember, he'd say, "No, KO wouldn't say that," and he was absolutely right. So he was, we tweak it, and every day before we shot, I'd get an email the night before, and he'd have like 10 ideas saying, "Here's things we can incorporate." 8 of them, 9 of them I'd have to throw out. Some of them, all of them were hilarious, all of them were brilliant. But you couldn't inevitably 1 out of the 10 we'd use. So his fingerprint is all over this film in ways. He even helped on the back end with the editing. But he was absolutely brilliant at times. people would show up. The protocols on the set are people are supposed to wait for the director to come in and say, do this, do that. He'd sometimes be there ahead of me, and I'd get there and the camera crew would be saying, hey, this guy's telling us what to do. I was like, well, look, there's no ego about this. This guy's been in more films than I've directed. So if he says something, chances are I'm going to come show up and agree with it. So take him seriously. And John was tremendous. Jean-Michel Cosby, well, not only an actress, but her primary trade, I guess, is a dancer choreographer. So she knocked it out of the park. When you had Chew Toy blasting and banging away up there, she was perfect for it when you gave her the right music like that. So Sean did a great job. And then, of course, my colleague John Canada Terrell, who came in working as a producer and an actor on the film. And he not only did a great job himself as Fleet Walker, the owner of the hip hop club, but he also brought us Clifton Powell.
So it's not really a black movie unless you have Clifton Powell.
Hey.
In the
certainly.
He's done more.
Shout out to. I think he went to Juilliard.
Really?
Yes, he was just talking about. Was it him or no? I'm thinking about Anthony Mackie, but he was talking about his acting experience. Like people, don't know how deep he was into it, and I was like, wow.
No, he's fully committed.
Serious.
I mean, if it's a big part or a small part, he's always fully committed. And it's just a running joke in the community. It's like, okay, is Clifton Powell in it? The same way, like if it's a music documentary, is Questlove in it? He validates the experience of watching the film. So.
Well, we shot with Clifton on the very, very first night of the film, and this is really my initial foray into directing something of this magnitude. So my first day directing, I'm directing the biggest actor I may ever have to direct, Clifton. And fortunately, when you have great actors, when you have great talent in whatever artistic pursuit, you're blessed because you almost don't have to direct them. They go out and take care of business. And, that's the way it was between John Luby and Clifton. It was just letting two professionals go at it. But it was funny because that day it rained. And we were originally scheduled to shoot the scene outside, outside of Plymouth Meeting High School. And because of the rain, I had to rewrite it that afternoon. And we had Clifton, who plays Chef Duran. He runs the kitchen in this restaurant, and instead of being at the restaurant, now he's at home cooking on the grill, which was my porch. So he was absolutely a pleasure to work with. And because of the rain situation, we had issues with the audio. He offered to come back the next weekend when he was going to be in New York. Didn't have to do that, but he was consummate professional to work with.
First-time filmmaker. I mean, what are some of the challenges, some of the discoveries in terms of the process of it? What was the first day on set like?
First of all, he shot in real film. He shot it in film.
Starting with what Breeze is talking about there, working with John Canada Terrell, as I said, we were looking for authenticity of the era. 1990s, 35 millimeter was the standard. So we shot in 35 millimeter to get that authentic feel, just as we did with the music, bringing an authentic artist from the era. The first night was rather chaotic, as a matter of fact. As I mentioned, it was scheduled to rain that day, and sure enough, it did. And when it started raining, and we were shooting at my house, so I had 20, 25 people, 30, everybody wanted to be here because Clifton was on. So it started raining, and everybody grabbed the gear and started running to the truck. One young man stepped up on the rail of the truck, the metal ramp, and apparently he broke his leg. Now, because it was only the first night, I saw a picture of him about 3 months later. And yeah, I vaguely remember that guy. And yes, we had insurance, so everything was covered that way. But it was an exciting and challenging first night. We had rain that disrupted shoot. We cut for a couple hours. Clifton went back to his hotel, came back and started shooting like 2 a.m. and managed to get everything. And it was pretty chaotic that first night. Well, the whole process is fairly chaotic. Like when you start a business, you hire one guy and you get your business growing, you hire a second guy and you slowly build. When you make a movie, it's more like a pop-up tent. Suddenly you got 20, 40 people working for you. 2 months later, they all go home, and now you're left to make a movie all by yourself. So it's interesting from a business perspective to learn the process. And I think you asked what the whole thing was like. Largely, it was an exercise in me learning how much I did not know about making a movie. And so I'm incredibly blessed to have gotten a product that I'm very proud of the product we're putting on the screen now. We're premiering the world premieres at the Hip Hop Film Festival in New York City on August 16th. But had I not run into John Cannadraell again at a Mike Dennis event at 3rd and Brown, screening the film Breakout that evening, I turned to my right. I'm looking at the screen. I'm like, I know that guy. I went to Spike Lee movies. I remember the 5 Heartbeats. I said, dude, I'm making a movie. You want to be in it? 10 minutes later, we're out in my car. 2 weeks later, he's telling me he wants to produce with me. That was a blessing, not only because I got John. He brought in a producer named Ronnie Wheeler. A lot more experience than I have, straightened out a lot of problems that I didn't even know I was going to run into. I've already talked about the music, what a blessing it was finding a man of Breeze's talents. And John brought Clifton in. Well, it certainly helps to have not only the talent of someone with that experience, but the name from a marketing perspective. And you know, when I started getting this cut ready, first time people are looking at it, I didn't recognize like how much work the audio has to done, how much work has to be done on the audio for it to be ready for a theater. And we're hoping to, in this case, to screen it in Philly, Washington, Newport News, and New York City in September. But it's a whole different animal than like corporate videos. You can get away with a lot less. People are going to watch it on their home computer screens, whatever. So it was largely an exercise in learning all I didn't know, and I'm very thankful to be come up with a product in the end that I'm proud of, and it works on many levels.
I love it. So, I mean, I have to ask this question because it's Real Black TV. Might use it, might not. But I mean, as a Caucasian director with a majority Black cast, did you feel any kind of anxiety about telling the actors how to do their parts, or did they bring do they bring that to the table? Like,
I never no, I never felt uncomfortable about
Wait, you're
anything.
white?
I mean, they were actors, and
You're white,
I was
Hurley?
wondering about that myself. Flash has
Oh,
told me I'm not. Yeah, I was wondering about that myself. I don't want to start controversy here on Real Black, but
oh man, take my music off the show.
there were accusations. There were accusations of Caucasianness against me during the making of the film. I heard that stuff all the time. No, I never felt uncomfortable at all. So there was a fellow from the Philadelphia Inquirer that came out on set one day, and I had about 100 people there for the dance scene. And he asked my PR person, where did Hurley get all the street cred? And I kind of laughed when I heard that because I was just making a movie. I didn't know I had street cred. But simple truth is, if you're paying people and you're running a professional operation, people show up and they do their job. And that's one of the real, it's just like in business. If you hire good people around you, you're going to be able to run a good business. If you're scrambling for decent people, you're going to have a lot of challenges that are, and same thing here, like I described, Clifton showing up, just did the job. If I had anxiety about working with Clifton Powell my first day as a feature film director, it also held true for all the local actors that these guys were professionals. They show up, they know their lines, they know their character. Yeah, you're going to tweak them and suggest this and suggest that and talk about how they're going to move around the scene and so forth. But there was nothing in the script that I felt uncomfortable about. I guess the most edgy racial aspect of it might have been Clifton's scene where he's talking about Black folks enjoying ranch dressing. And it goes back to slavery time when people were afraid to go up north because they heard there was no ranch dressing. And I guess Clifton was cool and signed on to be in it. So there was nothing controversial. So no, I didn't find it at all uncomfortable. It was a joy to work with pretty much everybody on the set.
Gotcha. So I understand there's a web series now or podcast series that you're doing, Hurley.
There's a documentary being done, as I see it, about me and my relationship with a fellow named Pablo. Pablo's an aspiring soccer referee, and he has a habit of red carding and yellow carding people for everyday offenses. You know, if you're sitting at the dinner table, you don't put your napkin on the lap, well, he might pull out a yellow card and flag you for it. So we struck up a relationship, and we've created a 13 episode YouTube series that is doing pretty well out there. We're just getting going with the marketing, but yeah, we got some interesting people in that. We got John Canada Terrell plays JT Hoofenmouth. You got Sinead Fairley, who plays professional soccer in the NWSL for the FC Gotham team up in New York, and TT Torres from Hot 97 makes an appearance both in White Dudes Can't Rap and also makes the appearance in episode 9 with Sinead Fairley on Pablo and Hurley.
I got a voice part. I think I got a voice part in there.
Oh, holy smokes! The multi-talented Mr. MC Breeze. I almost forgot. He plays Ted Knight and does a.
It's a knight in shining armor. It's ridiculous. It's funny. It's hilarious.
Well, I love it. I mean, you guys built a lifetime of friendships from the making of this film, for sure.
Oh yeah,
Mike, right there, you've really hit upon the biggest part of it. That's the joy that you don't see coming so much. You're like, I got to do all this stuff to make a movie, but I met you along the way, Mike, and as I said, without you, I wouldn't have met Breeze. I wouldn't have met John Canada Terrell. It's just remarkable how the world just kind of brings people together, and that's a great point you brought up.
Absolutely. So Hurley, if people aren't able to see the movie at the Hip Hop Film Festival on August 16th, or in its theatrical run in September, where can they catch up with White Dudes Can't Rap?
It will be streaming theoretically on September 20th, and exactly where, well, that's to be determined. The usual suspects, I suspect, will be on Tubi and a couple other places, but haven't had those discussions. We'll go through the Film Hub process, which is what I understand. People generally put their films on Film Hub, and then they get picked up by streamers and through whatever that process. I'm going to learn a bit about that as well.
Okay, fantastic. And Breeze, what are you up to next?
Working on the cartoon called The Scrums. Been working on that for a while, and first we were going to do a film, so the movie's written, but just the playing field is consistently moving in terms of streaming platforms and where you. So I said, what we're gonna do is just basically put out episodes, and The Scrums is about these 3 boys that try to get a record deal, and they go to a radio station to play their music. The radio people love the music, but because they're local, they don't really want to give them the love. So, and then somebody suggested maybe if they made stuff that was more controversial and they can get numbers in terms of like streams or views or viewerships on their Instagrams or Facebook, then they could probably do better. So one of the kids decides to make songs. He says, look, only controversial stuff goes viral. So they started to make controversial music. There's one scene where the guy sees a guy's mom on Facebook, and so they write a song about your mom's on Facebook, like she's not wearing enough clothes, the whole 9 yards. So, but every song that they make is negative and goes viral, but they lose a friend, they lose an associate, they lose a family member in terms of just like people don't want to deal with them anymore. So they're famous, but they lost all the core people that they love, and so they have to flip it, So The Scrums is what I'm working on now.
All right. Hurley, McNare, MC Breeze, White Dudes Can't Rap. Look for it wherever there's a screen. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Peace, Mike.
Hey, I was thinking, a little while ago, a black woman was in a restaurant. Wow, she was fine as wine in the summertime.
You work in the kitchen. How would you know who was in the dining room?
Oh, it's the ranch.
Ranch? I don't understand.
You see, white folks never come into a restaurant and order a T-bone steak with ranch dressing.
But black people do?
Oh, for sure. It's an epidemic in the black neighborhood. Ranch on steak. Ranch ranch on fries. Ranch on cornflakes. Oh yeah, it's worse than crack. Black people is fiending for ranch, dog.
I had no idea.